야 제제모 sorten 님이 저 오늘 몸 좀 모르는 게 바그르다는 감산도 실물도 돈바티 제잖아 기죠 내저로 제니 장감사 자워트 디비전을 일라 지메 반소자라 소라 곤티토반 포르 신기로.
The supreme, profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered even in hundreds of thousands of eons. Now we have the fortune to see, hear and uphold it. May we understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teachings. To liberate all sentient beings, please generate the supreme bodhicitta. Next, we will study the Udāna Sūtra together. The Udāna Sūtra has 4 volumes with 33 chapters, and we have already covered 10 chapters. The first 10 chapters are complete. Today we begin the 11th chapter, which mainly discusses the chapter on ascetics. Why do we discuss the chapter on ascetics here? There's mainly one reason. We previously discussed faith, discipline, and so forth. So what is the result of practicing these teachings? It is the most supreme ordination in Buddha Shakyamuni's teachings. Here, ascetics and ordination are explained as having the same meaning. This is one reason. There's another reason. At the end of the 10th chapter we discussed earlier, whether there is attachment or not, a true capable one, or Muni remains unmoved in body. A truly accomplished practitioner, like Shariputra and Maudgalyayana, remains unmoved. So what exactly is this unmoved Muni or capable one? It refers to ascetics. Therefore, we immediately discuss ascetics next. We can understand from these two perspectives the reason for discussing the chapter on ascetics.
Tramzendo parapanja sunji jiner jangchuchi do parapta marpanver thaba achiki matopo.
O Brahmin, you should abandon desire, practice diligently, and cut off the cycle of rebirth. If desire is not completely abandoned, one cannot attain the state of a Muni. Here it mainly discusses that there was once a Brahmin, which means a Brahmin. He wanted to ordain and attain liberation in Kapilavastu, the liberation of Kapilavastu. Actually, it refers to Buddhahood, the state of Buddha. He wanted to attain this, but he didn't find a particularly good method. Later, he went to ask the Buddha, "How can I attain liberation?" In response to this matter, the Buddha taught the following 2 verses. So what is the content of these 2 verses? First, it mentions the Brahmin. A Brahmin is also called a Brahmin, another name for Brahmin. Actually here, whether it's Brahmin, Muni, capable one, or ascetics, these several have the same meaning. Actually, the true Brahmin now is India's original religion, which is called Brahmanism. Brahmanism, everyone should have studied some history, right? Buddhist aspects and other history. So now many principles of Buddhism actually have some elements from Brahmanism, including mantra recitation and certain practices. This is similar to how Tibetan Buddhism was influenced by some local indigenous religions in a similar way. Actually, India also received some influence. This is something we probably have to acknowledge. Of course, true Brahmanism differs from Buddhism. Generally, Brahmanism is now commonly recognized in history to have appeared around 1500 BCE, during that time period. Of course, its source and overall origin has a rather complex history. India originally had a polytheistic religion with many gods: thunder god, sky god, sun god, water god, earth god, fire god, wind god, and so on. Indian religion has particularly many gods. Actually, this is quite similar to Tibetan areas as well. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are quite many deities. Chinese Buddhism has relatively fewer. As for Theravada Buddhism, apart from venerating Buddha Shakyamuni, there are almost no others. This kind of Brahmanism at its root has 3, eventually it seems among 3 deities, such as Maheshvara, Vishnu and Brahma. These are the main ones they venerate. So regarding this history, they have certain historical considerations now as well. It seems a few years ago they produced a series called Devan Kedeven Mahadev, about 820 episodes, very long. Each episode isn't very long. about 20 minutes or so. At that time, they also produced Buddha. As for Buddha, it seems it was 55 or 54 episodes. Each one discusses about 40 minutes or so. The deities they venerate are very numerous. Actually, in this, according to what Indians themselves say, some doctrines and rules of the indigenous religion, including among their 3 deities the power of Shiva and his unique abilities and so on, are explained quite clearly. So when we understand this here regarding the so-called Brahmin, sometimes we cannot completely view them all as non-Buddhist or Brahmins of the indigenous religion. Brahmins sometimes, because Brahmins have ordained ones, as I just mentioned, there was a Brahmin who wanted to ordain. Actually, in the Buddha's time, many Brahmins ordained. Regarding these Brahmins, sometimes people say, we Buddhists cannot venerate non-Buddhists. Actually, comparing Buddhism and Brahmanism, when comparing the two, Brahmanism might be non-Buddhist, but in Buddhist scriptures it's often said to make offerings to bhiksus, shramanas, Brahmins, arsis, etc. This appears quite frequently in Buddhist scriptures, so perhaps in different contexts, citing these terms appropriately is quite important. Here it says, what should a Brahmin abandon? Abandon desire, the afflictions of the desire realm, including those to be abandoned through seeing and meditation, then gradually eliminate those above in the form realm and formless realm, because some terms in the upper realms are not obvious. So as a Brahmin, here the Brahmin should be understood as a Shramana, as a practitioner who must abandon this desire, then practice diligently and cut off the cycle. Diligence is very important, as will be discussed below. Through diligence in practice, first rely on faith to follow a spiritual teacher, then listen to the sublime Dharma, and finally ordain oneself and enter the true path of virtue. In this way, one can cut off the flow of birth and death, which is samsara. First, try your best to eliminate desire, because eliminating desire is very important in Brahmanism as well. In the past, Gandhi wanted to practice austerities and abandon desire. He said in front of others, I can abandon desire, and many such things. Anyway, there are some special stories. Later, his abandonment of desire was not successful, although his vegetarianism was successful. But abandoning desire was not successful. There are some stories. The current Modi is also considered a renunciant among them. He generally remains celibate. In many aspects, including his diet, he follows Brahmanism. It should be Brahmanism. Their religious behavior in all aspects makes him a very pure practitioner, as it's also said. If they follow Brahmanism, we can say this, but here it should mainly be discussing our Shramana's method of practice. In that case, as a Shramana, one should abandon these desires and practice diligently. Afterwards, cut off the cycle of samsara, birth and death. If desire is not completely abandoned, if such desires are not all completely eliminated, because desire for practitioners is actually the greatest obstacle. If it's not eliminated, one cannot become a true Shramana or Brahmin, a true practitioner. So if you haven't abandoned it, one cannot attain the state of a muni. Muni refers to the fruit of nirvana with remainder, which cannot be attained. One refers to single-minded, one-pointed concentration, the fruit of nirvana without remainder, which also cannot be attained. That is to say, these cannot be obtained. Therefore, here, as a practitioner or Brahmin, one should try to abandon all desires and practice diligently. In this way, suffering will not come. If it's not like this, worldly suffering may also be very difficult to eliminate. There's a text called Udāna Sūtra. It seems it's not entirely a sutra, but it discusses many teachings on meditation practice. In the past, when Anshigao first propagated Hinayana Buddhism in China, there were some meditation methods. Later, Kumarajva discovered that just Hinayana meditation was not sufficient. Therefore, he translated teachings from 7 meditation traditions, a compilation of teachings, the essence of teachings. This is called Udāna Sūtra, translated by Kumarajva. In this text, it says, all sentient beings suffer afflictions because of desire, and no suffering doesn't arrive. For any kind of sentient being, actually, this desire is still quite frightening. The various faults brought by desire, if you don't eliminate desire, then suffering will inevitably arrive. No suffering will not arrive. What kind of suffering will descend? So generally for monastics, many people may disrobe, many people become lay people. Some are caused by anger, such as killing or stealing. There are these cases, but the majority probably cannot control their mind of desire, their desirous mind. Finally, they fall. This phenomenon is quite common. So speaking of the three realms, especially for us beings of the desire realm, the desires are quite strong. If this arises in one's mind stream, there's also no sense of shame and no way to counteract it unless one perhaps meditates on emptiness and has a relatively high realization in various aspects. Otherwise, it's very difficult. So for practitioners, this is very important. It must be controlled. As just mentioned here, mainly in this text, Muni and Brahmin mean ascetics. So when explaining the above verse, perhaps in this regard, this commentary also has it. We'll also look at it when the time comes. Sometimes when we explain these literally, it's still ascetics, whether Muni or capable one. And also Brahmin, these several terms are used too much in Buddhism, I don't know. Sometimes we may, according to different contexts, then begin to apply them. This is quite important.
Kundur jamba to nyumu shiriyang kunsuk pe tsundi tan bo kona yi shawa tenye to shila rag.
The lazy wanderer is disturbed by afflictions. Only through firm diligence can that matter be accomplished. The story just now has the same meaning as the previous one. Here, the lazy wanderer, regarding laziness, in the Tibetan verse, it's not very obvious. Above it says Xian, Xianba means little diligence, no diligence. Without diligence, that's laziness. Because of the character count, it's translated here as the lazy wanderer. This person in practice has no requirements for themselves, very lazy every day, such a wanderer. A wanderer is someone who wanders everywhere, roams everywhere. Today going to Serta, tomorrow to Barkam, the day after to Gaze, and then after a few days, if you have money, go to Chengdu. If you don't have money, go to Kangding. If you have a bit more money, go to various places, various big cities, then go abroad, just like that. Many people are quite what we call wandering monks, cloud-roaming monks who roam the four directions. Some monastics especially love to travel, including in our academy, some especially love to travel. I often notice some people just can't sit still. Some old practitioners in the past would say, "Do you have thorny trees growing in your cushion? Sitting all the time seems a bit difficult." Some people indeed, when they should sit, whether it's meditation or during the day, if in retreat, basically during the day they can't be seen at all. If there's other service work, that's when they appear. Otherwise, there's nothing else. So for practitioners, being truly stable is very important. The day before yesterday, I said to a Khenpo, I said, "Why do you often run there and here?" I said, you're someone who roams everywhere. So, and he said, "I don't roam. I've stayed here for 40 years, haven't gone anywhere. In the big picture, I'm stable. In small matters, occasionally going out is also acceptable. So some are stable in the big picture, but in small matters, I often see the door is closed. So I also have my reasons. So when we roam everywhere, actually, whether this is being lazy or not, I don't know. Perhaps Dzogchen practitioners may themselves, while taking a car, driving or walking, constantly remain in their awareness and rigpa. That may not be laziness, but rather diligent practice. It's possible. But in any case, what's being said here is, as a lazy person, a lazy one who doesn't practice the Dharma properly, their mind stream is constantly disturbed by afflictions like pride and jealousy. These continuously disturb their mind. Such a person's practice certainly won't work. So only through firm diligence, only by relying on a spiritual teacher and listening to the Dharma, steadfastly and diligently beginning to practice, with constant diligence and respectful diligence, practicing very firmly in this way that matter can be accomplished. Whether it's nirvana with remainder or without remainder, all practices can be achieved. There's no difficulty in achieving In the past, in the Udāna Sūtra, it was said that as a lazy person, there are actually many excuses. When lazy, for example, if they haven't eaten, I haven't eaten yet, I need to rest a bit. After eating, I'm too full now, I still need to rest a bit. Then when doing work, when not doing work, oh my, I can't do it now, I need to prepare, I need to rest a bit. Then after doing it, I'm done, I did a little, I'm so tired, I still need to rest. Then when walking to other places, I want to walk tomorrow, so on, I need to rest today. Once they go out, they say again, I've already walked somewhere, I'm very tired, so I need to rest. If not sick, I might get sick, I need to rest. After already getting sick, because I'm sick, I still need to rest a bit. So for those who are lazy, for instance, just these behaviors alone, they have many excuses. Then being lazy, not practicing properly, I think this may be correct. Indeed, some of us, because I went out, I'm too tired. Because I'm going out, I need to prepare. Because I didn't sleep well, I need to prepare and rest a bit. Because I slept too much, I'm very tired today. So many things for a lazy person, everything is an excuse. Not teaching Dharma, not attending class, and many others. If it's a diligent person, nothing can obstruct them. True study, contemplation, and meditation, no matter where they go or what they do, actually this study, contemplation, and meditation, just as taught in the A Precious Garland of Mountain Retreat instructions, study, contemplation, and meditation are used together, simultaneously. It's like when a yak eats grass, it looks while eating, then while eating it swallows it down. So it doesn't need to first look at this grass, then prepare to eat, after eating, then chew, after chewing, then swallow it down. It doesn't need such a sequential process. It just eats while doing it. So a person who practices well can also listen to teaching, study, contemplate, and practice simultaneously. So all matters they can accomplish at any time. If this is not the case, then as a lazy person, they can only do one thing, but even doing one thing, they don't do it well. One should abandon laziness and stay far from busyness, dwelling in stillness and constantly content. Such a person will attain liberation. This is also found in the Maharatnakuta Sutra. If one abandons laziness and stays far from busyness, such a person who loves diligence and is content and happy, then they will have hope for liberation. Indeed, everyone's time is the same, but those who can accomplish, can serve, can study and contemplate. In the same amount of time, they accomplish many things. As for lazy people, they have 100 excuses: poor health, bad mood, poor sleep, poor food, poor clothes. There are all kinds of excuses. Sometimes when we lamas and nuns discuss together, it's basically evident. Some of them just say, this won't work because such and such, so busy, so busy. But who knows what they're busy with? Look, the glass of your prayer wheels is now falling down because we're quite lazy. Now the prayer wheels can't be taken back. Although everyone's young, the other day the Khenpo said they must be very hard-working. I saw on the nun's side, Journey to the West is all placed on the windowsill, still there now. On the monk's side, there's still the strength to carry them back. I know these prayer wheels definitely can't be carried. Everyone knows this, including me. I'm here too. So now that glass is giving us a reminder. Dong, dong. Don't be lazy. That's what it represents. Us, in any case, however, you've already spent a large amount of time. Leaving the prayer wheels there is acceptable, but as for books, if you really can't carry them, if lazy in many aspects, it's not that sleeping all day is the only thing called laziness. Young people who can't even carry a single book, that's also a sign of laziness. In the future, those book bags you bring, write a name on the book bag and leave it there. Hang it up. We'll nail many nails in the assembly hall. This is so-and-so's book bag. Like that. That's understandable. That's understandable. All lazy karma, afflictive austerities, and impure Brahma conduct don't expect to accomplish great purpose. This also seems to be about a female upasika at that time, that is, a lay woman, because she and her son together observed the 8 precepts. Then during the 8 precepts, this son probably didn't keep the precepts well, and later was taken away by a yaksa. Then that lay woman, she probably had a way to communicate with that yaksa. When talking to the yaksa, she said, "According to what I know, if on the 14th or 15th of each month one observes the 8 precepts, then if their vows are not damaged, the yaksa will not harm them." She asked if that was correct. Then the yaksa said, "Indeed, what you said is correct." After saying this, her son was released. After being released, the yaksa spoke 2 verses that the Buddha had once said in different places. These 2 verses, it seems, were not related to the 8 precepts or yaksas, but it recited 2 verses of the Buddha, then repeated these 2 verses. Later, that laywoman and her son ordained with the Buddha and attained the noble fruit. So based on this, the Buddha took these verses, and at that time the arhats included them. That's the meaning. So the meaning is all lazy karma, these lazy matters, no enthusiasm for practice, no faith. Actually, laziness in our Bodhikaryavattara refers to the 3 types of laziness and others. Laziness means no interest in all virtuous dharma. Constantly their enthusiasm, their level of importance cannot be raised. This is called lazy karma. First is lazy karma. Second, afflictive austerities. In the process of practice, their mind stream is bound by afflictions, that is, defiled by attachment, aversion, and afflictions. Also, various non-Buddhist practices relying on the 5 fires, relying on restrictive practices. If such defiled austerities, they don't have much meaning. First is laziness. Second is various austerities with afflictions. Third is impure Brahma conduct, because Brahma conduct refers to conduct from lay precepts to monastic ordination. But this conduct, whether their root precepts or branch precepts are damaged or defiled, this is impure Brahma conduct. For such people, of course, whether these 3 dwell together or people who have these faults, don't expect to accomplish great purpose. You shouldn't expect to accomplish great purpose because practice is not diligent, the mind stream is defiled by non-Buddhist austerities, afflictions dwell, and Brahma conduct is impure. Such people you shouldn't expect to become great beings who attain nirvana. Even worldly people, for example, worldly farming, cultivation, commerce, doing these things, if they're lazy people with meaningless austerities defiled and their behavior is not proper, not righteous, such people, even for a worldly official, farmer or worker, these things indeed cannot be done well. Not to mention greater matters. If truly propagating Dharma and benefiting beings, or if one wants to practice and attain accomplishment in this very life, such a person must not be too lazy. One's practice cannot be improper. It must be proper, otherwise it's indeed very difficult. With diligence, one is praised by the world. With diligence, one's wishes are fulfilled. With diligence, virtues increase. With diligence, one attains Buddhahood. This is from Finding Comfort and Ease in the Nature of Mind, probably the 8th chapter, the last section, right? In our 9th chapter, we begin discussing secret teachings. This year, 2025, everyone's study task. Many of our Dharma friends, some here may not be, but many Dharma friends study this year, is the secret Dharma section of Finding Comfort and Ease in the Nature of Mind. Of course, for the lamas and nuns here, there are also courses including The Key to the Precious Treasury, Luminous Essence, many secret Dharma courses. So we here also hope and require everyone to study Finding Comfort and Ease in the Nature of Mind. Finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind is indeed our Nyingma Lamrim, stages of the path, for the Gelug school, Lamrim Chenmo and Ngakrim Chenmo, these 2 stages of the path combined. create an integrated sutra and tantra lamrim. And for us, it's like what Patrul Rinpoche wrote in his text praising finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind. As written, the 7 treasuries and the trilogy of rest are extremely important. So we also hope each year one's own task regarding time, perhaps some things can be quite fitting, some things can be adjusted by oneself, but we hope whether individually or with a few people together with different teachers, we hope finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind. In the past, I taught it the first time about 20 years ago. I've taught it several times. The last time, it seems, wasn't completed. The auspicious connection was left for later. One is the wish-fulfilling treasury. One is the secret dharma of finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind, not yet taught. If conditions ripen in the future, we'll see. For now, temporarily, we hope before the end of 2025, because some may be quite... Our Tibetan 8th month is originally the time for secret teachings. During this time, we'd best studying together like this. I think so many monastics studying together. In the mind stream, there will certainly be the blessings of the lineage masters. Naturally we'll obtain these benefits. This is everyone studying during such a special time is very good, but if individually when the time comes there's a slight discrepancy in time, I hope no matter where you are, individually or with 2 or 3 Dharma friends together, it's best to study finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind this year. According to reason, the Academy has also been emphasizing recently finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind, studying it from beginning to end once, and the wish-fulfilling treasury, both Sutra and Tantra sections, if studied once for one's own life, it's indeed extremely auspicious. Otherwise, we just do group discussion, debate, or theoretically explain some of the 5 great treatises to truly let you in the ocean of Buddha Dharma obtain the unique pith instructions to truly eliminate afflictions in the secret teachings in the treasury of pith instructions from lineage masters. So as I just mentioned, in finding comfort and ease in the nature of mind, I remember there should be this: a person with diligence, they also receive worldly praise. A person with such diligence, they themselves, because of great diligence, all their wishes are fulfilled. Then a person with diligence in body, speech and mind, these virtues they create arise naturally. In the future, they attain accomplishment. But lazy people are exactly the opposite. The world also criticizes them. Wishes are not fulfilled, virtues increasingly decrease, instead increasing many faults. Not to mention Buddhahood, even being a general practitioner, eventually there may be no way. Sometimes now we see in the first half of life, one is a diligent monastic, studying, contemplating, and practicing, but in the second half of life they become very pitiable. Actually, on one hand there's no mindfulness and awareness, on the other hand it's caused by lack of diligence, breaking and violating precepts. Such phenomena are also very common. This time it's mainly addressed to monastics. Of course, for others in a broad sense, this term ascetics can be used for anyone who practices virtue. In Tibetan, it means a person who practices virtue can also be called ascetics in the broad sense. Of course, in the specific sense, what we're discussing is monastics. In that case, the other day when discussing the 4 qualities of a samana, as Buddhists, especially Mahayana Buddhists, all the content therein can be understood.
Lagba chopper njerwar tar gevjung changwa shani pe nyarwa nyever chopper shid.
Like a person holding an arrow incorrectly, cutting off their own arm, a ascetics who fails to protect precepts is dragged into hell. What's mainly discussed here is using an analogy to illustrate the faults and virtues of breaking and protecting precepts. First, discussing the faults. It's like a person holding this arrow, an arrow for shooting from a bow. If this arrow is handled incorrectly, if the arrow is not held properly, then it's very possible that their own arm will be cut off or broken by that arrow. There's injury, there's this danger. Similarly, if we practitioners, ascetics, don't protect precepts well and break these precepts, then originally taking precepts is very good. But because of these precepts, if accompanied by contempt and denigration, this instead leads to entering hell. We also discussed this before, right? Some precepts bring happiness. Some precepts bring suffering. Those with precepts have peace. Those who violate precepts create suffering. What we mentioned before, I asked if it was the sutra of admonishing bhiksus, but I checked today. Online there's one called Bhiksu Treasured Sutra, but this may not be correct. It should be. It seems I haven't found the official translation. I'll check this in a moment. Which one in Tibetan? I haven't found it in Chinese, but that translation I just mentioned may be a later translation or something. That day we also discussed, right, that some people's precepts here, these two have already explained, some people's precepts are suffering leading to falling into hell. This analogy is not very easy to understand. Why is it not easy to understand? Because when we shoot arrows, you place this arrow in the bow, then forcefully shoot it out, shooting at someone else's body. But this arrow, no matter what, injuring one's own hand, still has certain difficulties. So this analogy, whether in the Tibetan commentary or in the verse, all use that arrow, the arrow for shooting, as an analogy. So regarding this principle, it seems the arrow injuring one's own arm, because arm can broadly refer to the whole arm in a broad sense. Injuring one's own arm is somewhat possible. The essential verses from the collection of Dharma is also considered another version of our Udāna Sūtra. What it says is, for example, grasping a sharp sword, if grasped loosely, it injures the hand. Their sword is the character for blade. This may be easier to explain, because with a sword, if originally you can strike others, you can cut others, but if not handled properly, it seems the sword can cut one's own arm. If not handled well, this possibility also exists. But our Tibetan arrow and Chinese, for example, in Chinese, the two jian sounds are quite similar. Could they be the same? But generally, when translating from Sanskrit to Tibetan, da and ratra, these two are very different. Arrow and sword are not the same. Also, the Samyuktagama says, for example, pulling thatch grass, if pulled slowly, it injures the hand. In the Samyuktagama, what it discusses is another type of grass called jian. I looked at it, and that grass, actually, when you pull out this grass, if the movement is slow, pulling slowly will damage the hand. If done quickly, there's no damage. So in Chinese, these two jian explanations are a bit better. One is the sword for blade, one is the jian for thatch grass, which is another character. That character has a grass radical on top with the character for official below. That one is also pronounced jian, right? These two. These are a bit better. But indeed, in this text, this arrow is not particularly easy to understand. So the meaning is, originally precepts are good, but if you don't handle them well, they may instead harm yourself. It's like originally emptiness can counteract afflictions, but if emptiness is not practiced well, it may also be harmful to oneself. Not correctly viewing emptiness, dull faculties harm oneself, like not knowing mantra techniques well, not knowing how to catch poisonous snakes. What we're saying is, just as stated in the root stanzas of the Middle Way, if we don't practice emptiness well, it will destroy those with dull faculties, those with shallow wisdom. It's like if mantras are not held well, if you catch a poisonous snake, instead it bites you. Same thing here. So here as well, if you keep precepts well, there's happiness in this life, and in the next life you attain the heavenly realm. Very good. But if not handled well, it's still quite troublesome. Using the arrow as an analogy analogy. I don't know, I thought for a long time and couldn't figure it out. How would this arrow harm oneself? Also, in that commentary it says the arrow harming one's own hand, cutting it into 2 sections and causing injury. It seems the commentary says it's an arrow. With an arrow generally inserting it, there may be some cases, but perhaps that arrow is a rather special type of arrow, not like the arrows in our bows now. It may not be like that. Another one, like a knife-like arrow. I don't know, perhaps I haven't understood it well myself. You all consider it further. If there are other new insights, let me know when the time comes. I don't quite understand.
Chirtaramdana zoni pe lagba chopar manjirtar. Chirtaramdana zon lagpe. Chirtaramdana zon lagpe lagba chopar manjirtar. Gevjong chong shalagna nyangan de bar nyer jen.
Like a person skillfully holding an arrow, not cutting off the arm, a shramana who well protects precepts is guided near nirvana. If we well hold the arrow with our hand, mastering this arrow, then the hand will not be injured, will not be cut off. Similarly, if this shramana skillfully protects precepts when keeping precepts, protecting them like a yak's tail. When I first came, I didn't understand this at all. I asked Khenpo Gato, and Khenpo Gato didn't explain it very well to me either, but later some people said that the best kind of yak, its tail is always curled up, not letting dust contaminate it. But in Chinese areas, I forget which sutra it was in there it speaks of a bull king among yaks. That bull king particularly cherishes its own tail. For example, if it gets stuck in a tree, in that case, it would rather die than pull out its own tail. It's also said like this, but there must be an explanation for this. You all look into it when the time comes. When I first came, I also didn't quite understand. So here, like protecting a yak's tail or protecting very seriously, then one is near nirvana without afflictions. Keeping precepts brings peaceful results. Receiving rewards in the heavens. Keeping precepts brings peace. In the heavens, these fruitions are also obtained. Keeping precepts is like a boat and raft, able to cross the ford of birth and death. Keeping precepts is like us sitting on this boat. One can completely cross to the other shore of samsara, birth and death. One completely reaches the other shore. So what's being discussed here? If one holds this arrow well, oneself won't be injured, and moreover, it brings endless peace to oneself. Precepts are also like this. This is mainly explaining this principle. Shramanas who don't understand, difficult to cross, difficult to endure, inferior ones generate regret. For them many sufferings arise. Here it mainly discusses ignorant Shramanas. As monastics, they don't understand precepts, don't understand cause and effect. Such people, even ordination is very afflictive for them. Actually, not only monastics, including lay practitioners among our Buddhists, there are some rather dull Buddhists with a bit of faith, but actually understanding nothing. In a muddle, then deceived by many people, their own practice also doesn't succeed. All day long, it seems whether they study Buddhism or not. I feel it would be better if they didn't study Buddhism. Not studying Buddhism, there's nothing to complain about. Studying Buddhism, they have many problems, can't be resolved, very painful. Here it's also like this. First, Shramanas who don't understand. Some Shramanas, they themselves haven't studied, contemplated and practiced well. Haven't relied well on spiritual teachers, just shave their head, and it seems also wear a kasaya. In that case, they're quite ignorant, not understanding the truth of phenomena, the appearances, including some allowances and prohibitions in Buddhist precepts. They don't know these. They're not knowing these. Difficult to cross, difficult to endure. Difficult to cross means they're difficult to get through, which means ordination. Actually, ordination is not after ordaining, sleeping all day. Ordination actually has tasks and workload that should be much more than lay people. One should need to study, contemplate, practice, and also keep precepts. Also, if one has generated bodhicitta, one needs to liberate beings. So many things. So regarding this today, I met someone who said he really envies our academy. Everyone from morning till night, apart from studying and practicing, there seems nothing else. He said if it were lay people, probably all day they'd be busy with their families' trivial matters, children going to school, earning money, all kinds of troublesome trivial matters. But here, apart from studying, contemplating and practicing all day, food is also naturally obtained, clothes don't require suffering. Then regarding life and work, there's not much pressure. Generally, some lay people also envy monastics. They don't know that among monastics, true monastics may have great recognition of their own position and choice, very much in agreement. But some people, if you lack wisdom in the monastic sangha, it's also very difficult to mix in. Many are constraints, many are sufferings. Also, not knowing the truth of Buddha Dharma, just wearing a robe inside, difficult to pass, difficult to transcend. That's the meaning. Then difficult to endure. Difficult to endure generally means, for example, keeping precepts is also very difficult to endure. Some matters are allowances and prohibitions. These are also very difficult to endure, including when there appear some objects of desire, objects of anger, various kinds of these objects. It's also very difficult to accept oneself at a certain time. In the end, there's no way. So such inferior ones, after finally ordaining or studying Buddhism, generate a mind of regret. For such people, all the time, various kinds of suffering appear. They may even have degeneration, may disrobe. Among us Buddhists as well, those truly with wisdom, the more they study, the more they feel it, more and more they feel it. Just like we said yesterday, our faith in ordination, is not because I'm a monastic, therefore I have faith in Buddha Dharma. It's not like that. It should be through study, contemplation and practice, feeling that Buddha is particularly remarkable, Dharma is particularly good, the Sangha is also a particularly good group. In this way, from the depths of one's heart, this is still very important, including ourselves. I myself also sometimes repeatedly contemplating. From ordination until now, it's already been 40 years. But throughout these 40 years of life, I myself have never regretted it. Moreover, I myself very much recognize this choice. And we ourselves, I myself, think of myself, although there's no other realization but I should have in Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha particularly great, unwavering faith. During this lifetime, unless you're killed at that time, I don't know if it would happen or not, but normally speaking, it won't degenerate. So I think many I think such faith shouldn't be because others say it's very good. Then I also echo others. Oh, it may be very good, very good. In one's own mind stream, there's not a bit of firm faith. This is speaking from the perspective of faith. So here, as monastics, one must understand, including some temples in our cities, just going through the motions, being a monk for a day, ringing the bell for a day with no real dedication. This is not very important. Of course, this is a disdainful expression used in the past to describe it, but truly being a monk for one day requires 1 day of study, contemplation and practice. This is extremely important. If this is absent, the core values are lost. As we've discussed some Dharma centers outside now, truly the centers are very small, but inside there's a particularly important soul figure. They bring warmth to the entire surrounding area. This is for each of us in the future. I see here as well many representatives from counties, although not people from various countries, but there are some small counties. I'm considering when these people return to their hometowns in the future, perhaps in the surrounding villages and surrounding people, let's first not speak of a very large scope, saying I will save some world or another, save Asia or whatever. That's a bit difficult. But at least if oneself is a lamp, around the lamp, darkness is dispelled. So when I first began in 1986, I ordained in 1985. In 1986, they sent me to a small temple. Inside there was an old Khenpo. Actually, it seems in the past his study, contemplation and practice weren't that high, but including during the turbulent years, for the surrounding common people, he played a very great role. All the people held right view, because in 1986, religion had just been restored. Basically, many had wrong views and wrong knowledge. So if a place has one such person, then at least in one's own surroundings, one should emit light and bring warmth. Everyone should generate such an aspiration. Otherwise, ordination is also very painful. Many things, for example, clothes, which kinds can't be worn, occasions, which places can't be visited. Also regarding food, if vegetarian red-colored foods also can't be eaten, and so on. There are many such constraints. So ordination like this is certainly very difficult. Buddhists are also like this, especially for Chinese Buddhism, vegetarians. So many Buddhists also, if you don't understand Buddhist principles truly, this group is very painful. If you understand the principles, then this group is not only not painful, oneself feels the life choice is very meaningful. We can understand it this way. In this text, it seems in the commentary, the previous analogy seems very briefly discussed, just 1 or 2 lines, and it's resolved. Just those 2 analogies mentioned earlier. I originally wanted to look more at the commentary in this section. Turned out to be very disappointing. Nothing much written. Then I searched other places. Repeatedly generating regretful thoughts, controlling their consciousness. If unable to turn around, how can Shramana conduct be performed? Here the meaning is quite similar to the previous section. For a foolish person, they may, because of their own act of ordination, now having already ordained in this way, it seems many things they want to do cannot be done, probably continuously, repeatedly generate various kinds of regretful thoughts, feeling very miserable and particularly weary. Some monastics, after staying for a period of time, feel ordination has no meaning because some people ordain to escape suffering without true renunciation. Such people are very bored in the monastic sangha. They feel no interest in study and contemplation, no interest in keeping precepts. Finally, it seems the people around them are all seekers of liberation. They themselves have no good friends, very painful, controlling their consciousness because regret has already controlled their mind. The mind cannot be well tamed if unable to turn around. If their discriminating thoughts and practice mind cannot turn around, some people at the beginning are still quite difficult to tame. When we first came to the academy, I remember some Khenmos were particularly mischievous, including probably many people, just particularly mischievous. But later it seems at that time His Holiness was also there. In this way, after study, contemplation and practice in the middle, they suddenly became people with tamed sense faculties, just suddenly, very noticeably. Later they also became particularly remarkable masters, so some people can turn around, some people possibly get worse and worse. If unable to turn around, then what's the point of being a Shramana? There's no meaning. If your behavior is particularly like a layperson, or we Buddhists, your behavior is exactly the same as those without faith, killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, lying. Usually no mindfulness, awareness and conscientiousness, having nothing at all. Then what meaning does such behavior have? Why shave the head? Why wear the kasaya? Why choose this path? In the end, there may not be much great meaning. The meaning of not much great meaning here ordaining and delighting in evil, dwelling at home, delighting in creating evil, will receive incomparable suffering. In future lives, suffering is endless. This story, it seems, at that time in King Prasenajit's realm, there was a person who became weary of his previous affairs. Then he began austerities and ordained. He abandoned his wife and such, then went to practice. While practicing, in the end, his ordination wasn't successful. Probably he disrobed or something. He liked other things like wives, prostitutes, and so on. His wife was also quite complicated. She also liked other people. The entire household wealth had been exhausted. Later, once when he came back, he intended to take the household decorations. But it turned out at home, probably the wife had sent everything to others. Then he himself became very angry. The two of them began arguing and fighting, having a big brawl. At this time, he himself was also particularly heartbroken. Later, this person, including King Prasenajit, probably had a relatively good relationship with the king. Now, some people, capable people, in their lifetime, they do these things, sometimes doing good deeds, sometimes bad deeds. Later, he went to the Buddha. The Buddha then spoke this verse. Then he began ordaining again. Later, he attained the noble fruit. So, looking from the story, wow, this person first ordained, then disrobed, then began ordaining again, then went to the Buddha again. As a result, he attained liberation. For such a person, probably the Buddha is teaching here that even if in one's life there are some setbacks, at the beginning being a good practitioner, in the middle possibly the family experiences various kinds of conflicts, in the end they can still attain fruit. Such a story is narrated. The meaning here is some monastics with evil conduct they've ordained, but after ordaining, they don't properly and lawfully protect their precepts. Instead, they delight in creating evil. Some monastics, how to say, for example, returning to the city, when in the temple they're still okay, everyone, because there's only the Sangha. But when slightly loosened, immediately their original habits are all completely exposed. Then they particularly like, in the mind stream, what they like is not virtue. Evil is more prevalent. Each person's habits and past life causes are all different. Some people like ordaining, but then begin to like evil dharmas. Such people probably begin to dwell at home again, disrobe, becoming lay people, but at this time still continuing without reforming those previous habits, continuously creating evil, first ordaining, also liking to create negative karma, then after ordaining, becoming lay again, after becoming lay, again creating evil karma. Such a person is beyond redemption, because ordaining, you also like creating evil karma, not liking virtue. As a layperson, also like this. Such a person will receive incomparable suffering, incomparable, unable to be compared with anything else. Moreover, the suffering they'll experience in the future is endless, particularly abundant, probably also in this life because they create quite a lot of negative karma. In this way, probably this life is also painful. Future lives are also painful. It seems in the Udāna Varga as well, similar teachings were given. Some people, when at home, abandon all affairs, willing to ordain. When ordained, on the path of ordination, not diligently practicing well, again liking worldly various kinds of fame and gain, including matters of attachment, aversion and delusion, then reaching the world, they can't get through, because in monastic life they've already become accustomed to eating well and being lazy. Then they themselves don't wish to endure the lay life's concerns for family, for career, many such worries they're unwilling to accept, then also very distressed. So some people, ordination isn't successful, lay life isn't successful, then want to ordain again, want to ordain throughout life. In the past, there was someone called Khenpo Sodargye. I heard there was someone, because males can ordain again, who had already ordained with Khenpo Sodargye 7 times. Finally, Khenpo Sodargye said to him, "I can no longer let you ordain." Then the Khenpo began crying. The day before yesterday, I don't know, in one of our classrooms here, when they were examining, a video of me laughing was posted online. Many people asked me, "What great matter have you recently encountered continuously crying?" I said, "I haven't encountered anything." But probably that day when laughing, I hope our internal matters preferably not be transmitted out. It was probably someone on the inside who spread it. Recently they keep saying, "What matter have you recently encountered continuously crying?" Actually, at that time I was a bit, because here's some Dharma friends' speech is a bit. Last year in a short video, someone, when selling a Tibetan Mastiff, said, "Its mother is a girl with cow hooves." So at that time, not that they spoke poorly, I at that time remembered this matter, then couldn't help myself. As a result, they said, "What matter have you recently encountered continuously crying?" So regarding that Khenpo Sodargye earlier, it seems in the past there was someone who, after ordaining many times, in the end the Khenpo himself was heartbroken and cried such a saying. So for such people, the suffering is endless. Everyone, whether crying or whatever, it's all acceptable. Okay, that's all for today.
Om